If you're thinking about moving to Northern Virginia, I want to share with you 5 things that I think are really important to know when you're coming here. And this is coming from me, Kim Barber, and I have lived here in the Northern Virginia area for my entire life. And I don't want to tell you my age, but I can tell you that it's a long time. And I have lived in Loudoun County, Fairfax counties, and I do a lot of boating and traveling in the Prince William County. So that's kind of some of the areas that I focus on also as a real estate agent. And so the 5 things I'm going to talk about will cover those areas. And it's really important to stay to the end. So I'm going to talk about cost of living, traffic, some of the lifestyle, some of the transportation, and then the type of homes that you're going to find here. As a person myself who travels around the United States pretty regularly, there are a few types of homes here that I find are more unique. And so I'm going to talk about those in a little bit more detail. So anyway, before we get started, if you find that you like this information, do me a favor and please go ahead and subscribe and, comment down below if you have some questions. You can also reach out to us directly to our email and phone number here. And I will be happy to help you and on your venture into Northern Virginia. Okay, let's get started. I'm Kim Barber with Kim Barber Group and eXp Realty, and I've helped thousands of owners and agents with real estate since 2004. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the cost of living. So I've lived here my whole life, and I've been working in real estate for 18 years. And one of the things that I find 80% of the time is there's a little bit of sticker shock. So it doesn't mean that people haven't done their homework, but in general, it's a lot more expensive to live here than most of the places in the United States. So the average sale price, the average home purchase price in our area in Loudoun County is about $500,000. And that's an average. If you go into single family homes, it's going to be in the mid to upper 600s. And the same thing pretty much coming into Loudoun County. Prince William County is less. So in general, understanding the cost of living between condos and single families and townhomes is important to know. You can go to our website at kim@kimbarbergroup.com and you can check out some of those homes as well as set an appointment with us, and we'll go over those in detail. But important to understand that those are the averages. The second thing that I find is really important to understand in our area is the traffic. So when you're thinking about moving here, traffic is one of the top 3 worst in the United States. So I've seen it change for the better since COVID's happened, but I think that's like all over the country. But in general, traffic is a big deal. So when we're looking for where we want to live and people say, where do I want to buy my home? One of the first questions that I ask as a real estate agent is how much or what's your tolerance for how long you want to commute? So I have found that going around and testing the areas and experiencing the neighborhoods is important, because you could say that you're 5, 10, 15 miles away and it could take you an hour to get somewhere. So that's one thing to consider, is the traffic, and to understand that traffic will have an impact getting around in our area. The third thing that is important to know when you're moving to Northern Virginia and kind of thinking about the housing is lifestyle, right? There is so much to do in this area, and there's so much to do in the city. There's so much to do like when you go out towards what we call wine country and towards the Appalachians. To the south, and actually to the east, we have like the Potomac River. And so there's a lot of things between nature and museums and restaurants and all of that that's like lifestyle, right? Do you want to live more in the rural where it's a little bit more quiet and you have more land, but quick access into the city? Then, that's something to consider. So if you can get to the outskirts of Prince William County and Loudoun County, and those types of areas, then, for example, it might take you an hour to get somewhere for social. That's okay. But I just want to let you know that those are some things to think about, because there are so many exciting things to do in this area. And like I said, experienced agents like ourselves can walk you through there, but each town has its own features. So if you want, for example, a high walk score, meaning you can get to a lot of places, when you go into Arlington and parts of Alexandria, then you're going to be a lot closer because it's a lot denser. Right. Then when you start to go more west, there are pockets of community in Merrifield, in Ashburn, and they call one Loudoun, and Reston Town Center, where they have like the whole live, work, shop, play, in one area. So there's like these different little communities within there that are important. And the same thing when you go around Woodbridge and some things around Lorton. And so that's important to think about too, is that they do have these pockets of very fun things to do. And how close do you want to be to those, right? So that's one of the things to consider. The fourth thing that you really want to also know about and consider is transportation. So we have really great public transportation in certain areas and not so great in others. So we have 3 metro lines: the silver, the orange, and the red line. And the silver line goes from DC all the way, and well, it actually goes into Maryland, but from DC, talking about Virginia, all the way into Ashburn. And that's the newest line. So it goes down basically the toll road, as we call it, the Dulles Toll Road. And so if you want to live off of a metro line, again, there's 3. The silver line runs from DC into Loudoun County. And then you have the orange line. So again, thinking about Northern Virginia, that's going to go like DC again into Maryland, but DC all the way into the Vienna area, right? So that's down Highway 66. And then you have the red line, which is going to go again from DC, Maryland, all the way down through Alexandria, which follows a little bit more of the 395 pathway, right? So those are pretty big arteries. And so if you want to live near there, then they also have metro buses, right? And a lot of the public buses will take you to the metros. But when it comes to like public buses around the town, you have great bus services in Fairfax. You have a lot of busing services in Alexandria and Arlington that are a little bit more city-like. Once you get into the further out places like Loudoun County, Prince William County, things like that, Burke, they don't really have like a central busing in the town. But check it out. The other great thing that we have, so we do have metro, we do have busing. The thing that's awesome that I love about here, that I feel like people are like, why do you want to live there, is we also are very close to the airport. So we have all the things we've mentioned, but how close do you or don't you want to be from the airport? So we have Washington Dulles International, which is in Loudoun / Fairfax County because it's right on the line. And then you have Reagan National, and that's basically right at the outskirts of Arlington in DC. It's actually in Virginia. Then if you want to go like from Loudoun County, it'll take you about 45 minutes to an hour to get up to Baltimore. So we do have the 3 airports, but when you're moving here, it's important to think about like, do you travel a lot? And then also, there's places like in Chantilly, Reston, not as much, but Reston, and then in Loudoun County that are in the flight pattern, in the flight zone. So if you want like super quiet, then, know that that's there. It's not horrible. I've lived in those places. But also the same thing if you're looking at Arlington and Alexandria, Arlington, like the airports come right there. So that's just something to know that's positive in that you have quick access to these things, but negative if you have issues with the noise. So the last thing, the 5th thing that I want to talk about is the housing types. So when you're moving to Northern Virginia, there's 5 major housing types. So there's single family, then there's condos, multifamily, and then there's townhomes. So I find that, just to jump into what I find in most of the areas in the United States compared to here, that's different. In our single family homes, we have basements. The majority of the homes in our area, because we have a high or above sea level a lot, is we have basements. So I find that a lot of areas don't have that, and that's new. So when we're looking at the internet and we're looking at homes for sale, notice that there's a thing called tax living area. And basically in our area, that's the space that's from the ground up. And then there's another space that's down below. So sometimes when it says total finished area or total square footage, pay attention to whether or not that includes above grade, above the ground, or below. The other thing is also that we have a lot more multi-level homes than a single home. And as we get to the newer communities out in Loudoun County and Prince William County, or the ones that are getting refurbished in more inside Falls Church, Vienna, Oakton, etc., then those homes are going to be bigger. And as they get bigger, we have less main level bedrooms. So that's just some food for thought to understand about the sizes of homes and the types of homes for single family. So with condos in our areas, when you own them, they're called condos. We call apartments the ones that you rent, right? So for condos in our area, If you like a high-rise condo, you're going to find them more in the Arlington, Alexandria, some Fairfax, and Points Falls Church in closer to the city, right? And so I'm going to do that again in case my hands are weird. So the closer we get into DC, the higher some of those homes go. And then as you move further out to the south and to the west, the less high rises that you're going to find. And that has to do with county code, right? They just don't build a lot of them in Loudoun and Fairfax County. But as they get out there, they're more what they call garden style. And that's basically 4 levels. And those 4 levels or less with like some balconies. So no, there's different types of condos in our area, and that's some of the keywords. The last thing that I also find that's different than what I see in a lot of places in the United States, not all places, but a lot of places, is that we have what we call townhomes. Some places are more familiar with the word row house, and especially if you're like coming from a city or you're familiar with living in the city. So we use the word townhome as we get into our area. And townhome are like clustered homes that have anywhere from 4 to like 6 wide of more vertical living. And those are very popular as you get into denser areas. So they have 2 shared walls unless you have an end townhouse, and then you'll have 1 shared wall. Okay, so that's just some things to know. Again, super important to understand that traffic can be an issue. You want to think about lifestyle. You want to think about, how important is certain transportation, and just understanding the different housing types that you're going to find here. Those are things to know about living in Northern Virginia.